Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us talking team and hosted by Eamonn Barclay, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It's Friday night and it is our Millwall fan show, and I've got the No One Likes Us talking team of Stan Godwin, Patricia Maslin, and the one and only Jeff Burnige.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Well, hello Stan, nice to hear from you again.
Well, it's good to hear you again, Eamonn, I must say.
Yeah, and you've had a bit of a clandestine sort of week, really, haven't you?
Well, that's right. I mean, I had to arrange a meeting with Ted, and what we decided to do was that I would meet him on Boston Heath, but he would approach one of the benches. That was already predetermined what the bench was, and I would be in the bushes, out of sight, and he would then come along, sit down at the bench, put the parcel down, and then walk away. I mean, I can't recall if anyone was watching us, and then I would suddenly appear from behind the bush and then take it away. It was all sort of John le Carrier and George Smiley rolled into one, mate.
Hey, social distancing at its best. How about you, Jeff? How's things been with you?
Well, nothing like as exciting as that, I must say. Stan, That sounds like a real thriller. No, I'm working from home. I'm still working at my job, but I'm managing to restrict that to the morning. There's less and less to do. So every afternoon, about 1:30 or 2, out in the garden, off with my shirt, on with my headphones, and I'm sunbathing.
It's nice for some, particularly along the Thames. Patricia, how about yourself? You're still in self-isolation?
I am still in self-isolation. I've taken up a new hobby this week, painting with acrylics to go along with my photography.
Well, that's a good balance of the arts. You must be missing football dreadfully.
Oh, so much. I get so upset when I see pictures of the ground. Oh, it's horrible.
We've got some sombre news first. It was announced this week when we read in the South London Press that 34-year-old Millwall fan Terry Coakley from Burnige died on the 2nd of April through contracting the COVID-19 virus. We also learned of 1960s player Bill Wright, who passed away on the 14th of April, just 6 weeks after his 89th birthday. Our thoughts and sincere condolences go out to their families and friends, and I'll say R.I.P. Terry and R.I.P. Bill. I think you can remember him, can't you, Jeff?
I can, Eamonn. I know he was a number 11. I can picture him playing on the left wing. I don't think he played a huge number of games.
All of 16, I think.
That's all, was it?
Yeah.
A very early 60s, I think that must have been.
62 to be precise.
There you are. R.I.P. Terry and Bill.
Right, on to things more to do with whether our football club will or won't be doing what it needs to do, is that Chief Medical Officer Professor Chris Whitty, you can all remember him from his image on the TV, said on Wednesday evening that some form of the measures will have to be in place for a long period of time to make sure the transmission rate doesn't grow, as the virus could begin spreading again. He indicated the measures could be here until the end of the year. Pat, you have held some strong views about life not returning to normal for quite some time. If Whitty's expectations become reality, how do you think next season may be affected?
Much like this season, it'll be behind closed doors. I mean, we're already in a farcical situation this season, and it'll carry on to next season. But we can only be guided by the scientists and medical experts in the country. The EFL are looking to try and reorganise next season, or so they're saying, into a north and south divide to cut down on travel costs and accommodation. They're just clowns. They're just clutching at straws. And I just want to say, or end with, that Bill Shankly was wrong when he said football is more serious than life and death. Of course it's not, and we all know that.
Absolutely right. Jeff, all of this is unprecedented. The club must be assessing the risks to its continued existence. You've been involved when we've had our backs to the wall. How did you go about finding a solution to bankroll the organisation? And were there any lessons that might prove valuable now?
If I can just go back even further than my time, the last time anything like this happened was the outbreak of the Second World War, wasn't it? The season was 3 games in, and the season was stopped, declared null and void. If you scored a goal, it's no longer on the record. And you just played friendlies with guest players for the next 6 years. And then everyone resumed as if nothing had happened in the same divisions as they were in, I think, in 1946. Now, moving forward to 2007, Millwall went into administration, and 2/3 of the staff lost their jobs in one way or another, including the manager and assistant manager. And the administrators brought in John Docherty, who'd been the manager previously that got us into the First Division, and David Kemp. I think they worked for nothing for a while.
Amazing.
And they finished the season. Doc left 1 game from the end. David Kemp took that game. It was away to Bury. People might remember that.
Yeah.
And luckily, Theo's takeover happened during the summer. We started the season on a normal day, re-established with many of the staff rehired. This is a different situation because in that one, you weren't restricted where you played or what crowd you could get in and things like that. This is very different, and it's, I find it impossible to predict what's going to happen next.
No, it's a very difficult line.
It is. I'll personally still want to see, whenever we can, this season finished, whether it be just the vital games, with the others being allocated on an average points per game basis. I'd like to see the vital games for promotion and relegation and playoffs played behind closed doors if possible. But of course you can arrange it, and then if 2 players go down with the virus, you have to postpone it. So it's very difficult to see what's going to happen. Very difficult indeed. And we're moving towards calling the season null and void, but I hope that doesn't happen.
Let's hope not.
As for lessons learned, as I said, I don't think there are any I can immediately tell you about because, strangely, the situation we were in emerging from administration was a lot simpler and more clear-cut.
Stan, you've expressed strong views about tampering with changes to the league and how it functions. There have been suggestions, as Pat mentioned, about a north and a south for the championship, therefore reducing the amount of games that could be played. And there's also been a whole host of other things being brought about, even including reducing the amount of time they play games and only playing each other once in the season. What do you think of those sort of things?
Well, I mean, well, let me just say this. I mean, I take the view, and have done for a long time, that in this country, we have a pyramid of football, from the Premier League down to all the non-leagues and all the various levels and whatever, steps as they call them in a non-league. And it is a position that no other country can come anywhere near. And we should do all that we can to maintain that pyramid in every way, shape and form. And what concerns me with some of these so-called proposals, I mean, they talk about this business about a north and south divide. Now, it happened when I say it happened in my time, I mean, it used to be the 3rd Division North and 3rd Division South. Now, I was born then, but I wasn't attending football matches, and by the time I did, we had the 4th Division. And because the argument was then, apparently, it was done on the basis of lowering travelling costs and one thing and another. Now, I don't see the argument for that in relationship to the Championship, frankly. I don't see how they could justify that. In terms of the 1st and the 2nd Divisions, personally speaking, I would, if I was in a position, I would want to speak to the chairman of the various clubs in the 1st and 2nd Division to get their take on it and to see what their view was. I certainly don't agree with this idea of only playing one game and having shortened periods and all this sort of stuff. I mean, it's going to be interesting because if you know, they're going to go on about the amount of games and whatever. Well, one of the obvious, and possibly getting people to make sure they don't fall foul with this COVID-19. I mean, what we could do, for example, in my opinion, would be instead of having this nonsense where we play, for example, the FA Cup over 4 days, we now play it like you used to do it. It was all done on the Saturday, because the problem you've now got with that is television money.
You're right. It is the money business is gonna make the big issue all round. But I think
is the problem.
I think the longer it all goes on, the greater it will be for some smart solution to whatever we're going to do in the short term. And that might even go back to what Jeff mentioned. We just call it all a day and go back to where we were after the war is over. But we'll have to wait and see about that. We're going to take a break now.
Bethany Warren here again. Thank you for listening to our show. Don't forget, Love Sport Radio is now mothballed pending change in current pandemic conditions. Love Sport are still running previous programmes, and you can hear some programmes on demand online. You can still listen to repeat programmes both online and on DAB. Hopefully we'll be back on the air with them quickly when conditions improve. In the meantime, watch out for our podcast adverts on Facebook and Twitter. Our podcast show links are available on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud and Pinterest.
Right, welcome back. We're now going to have a look at this week's Legend, Hero or Thank You. And the nominated person is Andy Frampton, defender, nominated by Karen Gould of Lee Green. Well, Stan, what about Andy Frampton?
Well, Andy Frampton. Well, I quite liked Andy Frampton. I thought he was a very good player. When he first come to us, he for some reason, I don't know why, he seemed to be getting a load of grief. I could never understand it myself. I always thought he'd done quite well. I thought he was a good player. And
let's get everybody's view, because you might be changed in what you're thinking.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Patricia, what do you think about Andy Frampton?
He wasn't a standout player for me. I mean, much like Stan was hinting, he wasn't well liked when he first came. But he did get Player of the Year in the 2009 season after that dreadful Wembley appearance against Scunthorpe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously he became a favourite down the Den. He was a decent player. As I say, not a standout player for me.
All right, hang in with that. Jeff, what do you think about Andy Frampton, ex-Dulwich College schoolboy?
He was. He's an earlier version of Murray Wallace, wasn't he? He's a big lad.
Yeah.
Unusually big to play left back. Quite often played left centre back. He was Player of the Year, as Pat's pointed out, but perhaps his biggest contribution, as is shown in that book, Family, by Michael Calvin, was he was a very important part of that whole essence that Neil created. It was a sad day for me when he decided to pack up being a coach, because he had to go and run his family business in the West Country. It was an awful decision for him. I know what I think. I think he played a huge part in the development of the team that we now have. And
the Calvin book put him in the class of being one of the key leaders, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
An intelligent man, a sincere man, a well-liked man in the dressing room. He played a very, very important role. I just wish we saw him more often come back to the Den. I don't recall him being back from the time he left and being introduced to the crowd. That should happen.
Yeah, it needs to one day. So for you, Jeff, what would you say? Legend, hero or thank you?
Very sincere thank you.
Okay. Patricia?
I'm afraid I'm going to follow Jeff on that one and say thank you.
Well, don't be afraid of following Jeff. because you're usually following someone else. But there you go.
I don't follow anyone.
That's all right. Oh, it's someone who follows you. They're always in your camp, aren't they? I remember that. How about you, Stan? Where does he stand in your book?
For me, he would be a hero.
That's it. Well, sadly, you go down 2-1 there, Stan. And it's thank you, Andy Frampton, and thank you very much. We're now going to have a little listen to our blast from the past, and it's Robbie Ryan. Our blast from the past looks back to his time with the Lions, in particular remembering our run to the FA Cup final.
And I'm delighted to say we are joined on the line by Robbie Ryan, former Millwall left-back, a real legend. 226 league appearances, won the second division title in 2001, and his last appearance for Millwall was in the 2004 FA Cup final. Robbie, thank you for joining us. What was the highlight of all those highs?
Yeah, how you doing? Okay, yeah. Obviously, I suppose the FA Cup, barring the results, as I said. To be honest, I think I was there for 6-7 years, and nearly every year we were obviously competing for something. Whether it be, as I said, one obviously League Two, obviously the playoffs for the Championship, and obviously rounded off with an FA Cup final appearance. To be fair, so it was great times, a great 6.5 years of my life, to be honest.
And when you were there, what kind of reception did you get from the Millwall fans?
Yeah, great reception. And even now, I don't go back that often. Obviously, I work nights now, so it's difficult to get down there. But even if I go down there now, I always get a great reception off the fans. And I just think, as I said, the time I was there was obviously 6.5 years. And as I said, every year we were nearly competing for something. So I think it was a good time to obviously to be at the club. And so yeah, the fans are always great to me, to be honest.
Yeah, Rob, this is Stanley. Do you still work on the for TFL on was it the Permanent Way?
That's it, yeah, TFL, yeah, I do cables, yeah. So I'm actually working tonight. To be fair, it's a hard life.
Right. Well, you're a TFL man after my own heart. I used to work on the underground. I was a driver,
yeah,
but anyway. So what? I've listened to your interview when you've given it when you've talked about the cup final. Let me ask this. Clearly, you was up against Ronaldo. Did you find him when you was playing him? Was he harder than you thought he was, or wasn't he as hard as you thought he might have been? I don't mean hard in knocking you about, but
yeah, no. Listen, obviously, it only sort of broke on the scene. I think probably 3 months earlier. So I knew by watching him on television that it was an out and out winger. Do you know what I mean? So he was obviously going to take you on an inside and outside. So you could see by him that he was. Obviously, at that time, I think he was only 18 or 19, so you knew he was going to be, well, maybe I didn't know, probably the best player in the world, but you knew then that he was going to be a hell of a player, and obviously I think Man United did pay a lot of money for him. But his quality, and at that time, he was tall, he wouldn't, I know he was probably skinny, but you could see that he was ready to fill out, you know what I mean, and be big and muscly, and as I said, he was tall, and he just goes both ways, doesn't he? He can go inside and outside, and he's so dedicated as well, do you know what I mean? You read about when he's always training and putting in the extra hours, etc. And I suppose that's what makes him one of the best players in the world, to be honest. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, he is a bit of a, I'm the number one man. But I mean, to be fair, he does, as you say, he does do his training and all that. I mean, you can't argue about his dedication.
But don't worry about his dedication. Worry about Robbie's dedication. When we had Alan Dunn on the show here a couple of weeks ago, he said this was the best bloke that had ever marked Ronaldo from outside the top flight.
Well, I'm not. Robbie's
I don't know what he's after, to be honest.
Robbie's dedication is not in question as far as I'm concerned.
That's good.
Robbie, it's Pat here.
Hello
it was
there.
a great day. Hi. It was a great day at Millennium, but do you consider the semi-final an even better day when we beat Sunderland? I mean, to every Millwall fan, I think they prefer that day.
Yeah, I've obviously spoke to Millwall fans, and even obviously my family flew over for that. And my wife and her family, I think they ended up getting a limousine up there, and they said that was the best day ever. Do you know what I mean? But from obviously because you won that, and obviously the crowd is buzzing. I mean, obviously for the player to play in the finals, obviously better than the semi-finals. You know what I mean? But I think from a fan's point of view, probably didn't expect us to beat Man United. Whereas obviously winning the semi-final after the game, they were all still buzzing. And whereas maybe after the cup final, after getting beaten, the fans might have been a little bit deflated. So probably from a fan's point of view, I can see why they say that the semi-final was better. But even though the final wasn't a great game, from a player's point of view, to play, unfortunately, it wasn't Wembley, but to play in an FA Cup final would obviously be better than the semi-finals, you know what I mean? But I do, as I said, a lot of fans do say that their day out was Old Trafford.
Robbie, hard to top an opponent in terms of quality on Cristiano Ronaldo, but who was the best teammate you worked with at Millwall?
I suppose I always look at Lucas. I just remember Lucas Neal, probably because when I was there, he didn't play all the time, and you think to yourself, how is he not playing at Millwall? And obviously, no disrespect, and then he's moved to Blackburn and gone on to have a great career, and then even Tim. I remember like training with Tim and playing with Tim, and think, yeah, Tim's a great player. But then I think Tim like done his crew shit, and I remember he come back out like literally 5 months probably, and in training he just knocked me off the ball. I'm thinking, what's happened there? And Tim actually come back 5 times a better player after he'd done his crew shit. He just got much stronger. So it's probably the two Australians. I don't want to say that, but it's probably Tim and Lucas, to be fair. But we had some good players. I mean, I loved playing with Steve Claridge. Obviously, he was a bit older and wiser, but for me, being a fullback, he was always looking for the ball, and he was always an outlet for me. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, my best mate Richie, who obviously unfortunately got injured, and again, he was just he was getting better with every game, and every season that went by, he was getting stronger and better. And unfortunately, he obviously had to retire through injury, to be honest. So, I mean, we had some great players, to be fair, didn't we? Like 3 or 4, like Stephen Reid. We had 3 or 4 top players, to be fair.
Yeah, you nearly had a team strong enough to put in the whole of the Irish squad, I reckon, at one stage.
Bar than me, yeah.
Oh, you could have got there yourself. You'd never known. Anyhow, I'm sorry I woke you up the other morning. It's Eamonn, you know.
That was fine.
But there you go.
Just when you rang, I was just all over the place. I'm like, what?
It was all good fun. There's a question. Johnny was asking Alan when he was on about Sean Dyche, and what he was saying that Martin Allen had come on the Love Sport radio, and he talked about new players being exposed to a Sean Dyche feat. Do you remember anything about that? Shall I add?
I am the worst. You tell them it's not me like ducking and diving.
No.
I can't remember anything. All these
nothing to do with.
Was I even there?
Nothing to do with eating worms or anything like that.
No, what? You got me intrigued now.
Well, I'll come back to you later on and I'll talk that one through to you. But it's definitely.
I might have to text him.
Yeah, you'll have to. Yeah, Martin Allen said that about him.
Exactly, Robbie. Thanks ever so much for your
time. Thanks, Robbie.
No problem. Again. Thank you.
Ta-da.
Lovely to speak to you. Robbie Ryan, their former Millwall left-back, who, of course, did have the unenviable task of dealing with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Great to hear from Robbie Ryan, who, as Alan Dunn said, was probably the best defender to come up against Ronaldo outside the Premiership. Hopefully we'll get Robbie back on the show once again, and he and Stan can enjoy talking about the traffic on the Underground. Last week, Dave Hart said, assuming we remain in the Championship, we should pull out all stops to sign both Woods and Bennett, but we are buoyant in midfield, and perhaps Malumbi would be a luxury too far if even we had the opportunity to get him in. Stan, would you share those views?
Well, I do. I would be looking. I wouldn't consider if we had Malumbi, if we had a chance to sign him, I wouldn't consider him no luxury. I think he's been outstanding this season, or up until the end of it, and. So, no, if we had the chance to get him back on loan next season or permanently, then I would certainly be going after him. Because it's, although he signed his contract, who's to say what's going to happen now because of all of this? What concerns me sometimes is that I think there's a lot of supporters around the country thinking when all this is over, all of a sudden the transfer window comes and there's going to be mega bucks spent. And it ain't going to be like that. Because the money simply ain't going to be available. That's the reason. If we can get him in on a permanent deal, I would have no problem with that at all.
Okay. That presents, I suppose, Pat, before I ask you something else about strikers. We've got a lot of midfielders now, Pat.
Well, we have. Don't forget we got Tomo to come back yet.
Well, I thought you'd say that.
Well, of course, he's the best player at the club. I don't know. I don't know Rowett's thinking on Tomo. He's not seen him an awful lot. That's what worries me with bringing Woods in. I don't know. I just got no idea how Rowett's thinking on that one.
But the other bit of the jigsaw for Dave, he said we needed at least a 15-goal a season striker. Is there anyone that you think might fit that bill that we could get in?
It depends what sort of money we got to spend. People coming out of contracts will probably be the ones to go for. I will say I would prefer we went for someone young in the lower leagues. There's this young guy, he's at Rotherham at the moment, called Jerry Yates. He's only 23. I know he's playing in the lower divisions, but he got 12 goals in the first half of the season. I mean, his contract runs out next month. It'd be worth getting someone like that in. It wouldn't cost us hardly anything. He'd jump at coming up to the Championship, I'm sure, and just trying out youngsters like that. Even giving our own Gary Alexander's son a trial. I mean, he's played. He came in George, that's it. He came in last season, didn't he, for his debut? Yeah. Let's put him on the bench a bit more. I don't think we're going to be able to afford anyone from the Championship or Premiership, to be honest.
We'll have to see how the cards play out, and bear in mind what Stan said, that there ain't going to be the money this time round.
Exactly.
Before. Jeff?
I don't think anybody will be paying much in the way of transfer fees when this is all over, because I think all the clubs have taken a big hit. But the question was about Malumbi and Woods. I do think that the critical one might be Mason Bennett. I just have a good feeling about him, but I usually have a good feeling about any striker we sign. I'm always convinced they're going to get 15 goals. I've got a good feeling about Mason Bennett. It's someone that Gary Rowett has focused on rather than inherited from the previous regime. I do think there are goals in at least one of our other strikers. What's his name? Pat will remind me. Not Bodvarsson, the other one. Bradshaw.
Yeah.
Oh, Bradshaw.
I think
he's not been on form of late, has he?
No, but goal scorers blow hot and cold, don't they? Ian Wright once went 9 games without scoring.
Gary Alexander went over 20 games without scoring, you might remember.
But Field, I'm not expecting to see Malumbi in a Millwall shirt again. I think Brighton fancy him strongly. A lot will depend on which division they find themselves in. I think it's going to be the Premier League. I think next season he'll be a Brighton player, trying to fight his way into the starting team. So I would like to sign Ryan Woods, personally. I like the look of him. I loved him at Brentford. Holding midfield player, yes. I think that enables Tomo to play further forward, and that I suspect much underrated Ryan Leonard, who missed most of last season with injury. So I think the striker position is more urgent than the midfield position. But of course, you want to strengthen wherever you can, don't you?
Yeah,
but Bennett hasn't got a very good scoring record, has he, Jeff? If you look back at his scoring record, it's not good at all.
But I think you can see from where Rowett played him that he's not going to be the main central striker. Look, it's someone that Gary Rowett picked out rather than inherited. He's obviously got faith in him. He had various other options, I think, in January. I've got a good feeling about him. So, but no one really knows until we see who's on the team sheet on the first game of the next season, and that's anybody's guess at the moment.
It is a big guess. There's talk that his old player that he had at Derby, Vidra, who hasn't had a look in or a sniff of first team football at Burnley, might come a loanee at the Den next season. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Thanks for that, guys. Tonight we're going to hear from Millwall Community Trust Chief Executive Sean Daly. Sean Daly joined Millwall Community Trust in March 2018 after spending 18 years as the head of football and sports development at some team in the London Borough. Oh, Charlton, that's their name. Before joining the Addicts, it is, Jeff, Addicts, he spent 6 years working in a major league soccer league in America as an under-16 coach for Tampa Bay Mutiny. Sean is a qualified UEFA A licensed coach and was an FA tutor for the last 10 years, which took him around the world to places like South Africa, China, Spain, Holland, delivering FA coaching on behalf of the FA. Sean is a Mile End born boy and was delighted to come to Millwall as he has supported the Lions all his life. We're going to hear from him now and how the trust is surviving under the current conditions. Hi, welcome Sean, welcome back to the show. You've been with us once before. How's things?
Good. Strange times for everyone at the moment, but working well.
Good. Sean, the Millwall Community Trust was to have its Community Day on Saturday the 14th of March, the day after lockdown commenced. And I know because I was due to make a trip to the Lions Centre for the walk-in football match at 10 a.m. with a group of 30 people before we headed off to the Executive Lounge that day. But it didn't happen. So what was the impact of the lockdown to your planned fundraising activities that underpin your existence, really?
A very difficult week that week. In all my time here, we got the biggest profile that we had that week. Sky TV following us at some of our school events and some of the community work we were doing. We went and presented to the EFL about our education programme. Everything was lined up for Community Day on the Saturday. We had stalls coming, we had a band, the Husky were coming off the shirts, we had an auction, we were launching the lottery. Really big day for us. And on the Thursday, Teddy Sheringham and Tony Cascarino were doing a charity evening for us as well. Yeah. So I got the call on the Thursday from Steve Kavanagh and EFL to say trading's stopping. So it knocked us back quite a bit. But it was more about, that's how I see it at the moment. The whole thing's paused at the moment. It will happen. Community Day will happen again this season, whatever version it's going to be. Whether it's going to be a virtual one or whether we get playing behind crowds again, we'll have our Community Day. But strange week. But I think it's strange for the whole country, isn't it? I think we're in quite a good position in the club. We've got great backings from the fans and the club and stuff like that. So it's just pause at the moment for us at the moment. But I look forward to watching you play football. That would have been interesting.
A walk-in rate, that would have been fun. I'm certain I'd have raised some funds for it, but there you go. But I'm sure we'll get round to that at some stage, Sean. Just for the crack, at least.
We will.
You're continuing to support the community during these challenging times. What responses are you providing?
Well, very much. We're a face-to-face organisation. We go out in the community, and a lot of our work is around generating income through schools and estates-based programmes and stuff like that. So lockdown came. I've got staff here, and how can we go out and support? So we're doing some online education programs for some of our students that have been vulnerable students. So we've got a lot of students that come here that don't go to school. And they don't go to school for maybe reasons is school's not for them or gang affiliation or behaviour problems. Well, their learning doesn't stop. And we've got to continue that. So my education officer's doing online teaching every day with them.
Wonderful.
Which is great for them. They don't even have to come out of their house. So we're doing that. We're doing deliveries twice a week to older people. One of our officers is out there collecting their shopping through and bringing them in every day. Got staff down at a food bank, supporting food banks, helping them voluntary work down there. We've got a call centre. We phone up all our older people from our walking football, from all our walking sports programmes to check they're in okay every week. Just anything we can do really. We've offered Lewisham Council the Lions Centre if they want to use it as a distribution place for food or for the local community. Yeah. Anything we can do, we'll help out at.
Fantastic. I mean, you've made the best out of a bad situation, really. and doing the things that you do really put you into the limelight in the community. I mean, we had James Kelly the other week who was talking about your good selves on our show, and he was shocked over the issue when Lewisham were actually considering goodbye to the community trust from where it sits. Things have changed, and hopefully that's going to take us to a better place now. But yeah, I think your profile has immensely improved, and what you do is a credit to you all. We had Millie and Alicia from the Lionesses on, and they come through the Regional Talent Centre that you run through the Community Trust. Not many people realised that link existed. I don't know why or how. Got feedback on that, and people said, "Oh, I didn't realise they come under the Millwall Community Trust now," and of course they do. So some wonderful stuff and some great things going on. How has the lockdown affected your people?
Same as many organisations, a lot of our income is from unrestricted funding. So us going out, doing work in schools and colleges and programs like that. So I've had to furlough some of my staff, ones that aren't grant funded. So I furloughed about 8 of my full-time staff, and I've got 6 that are working permanently, that are here all the time, Monday to Friday working. But important for me was I have a massive part-time staff that come in, do maybe 1 hour to 20 hours a week. It's important that I looked after them. So I had an opportunity to furlough them as well, which not many organisations are doing for their casual staff. I furloughed them, furloughed about 14 of them.
Right.
One, because I need that staff when I come out of here.
Yeah.
When we come out of this, we need staff that need to be looked after, and they've got issues like us. They haven't got regular money coming in. Well, I can get it through the furloughing, so I will look after them. But they're the people that have gone out and doing the volunteering in the food banks and helping the community. So, but it's been good. You know, everyone's got their hands in and helping us. I've got one lad that's doing cookery lessons online for young people, so they learn about independent cookery.
Yeah.
I've got another lad who set up FIFA online, so kids can interact with other FIFA. I think everyone's looking for when we're coming out. I mean, we had a meeting this week about our community is going to be totally changed when we come out of this lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, the needs of our community is high unemployment, so we'll have to change our community scheme about how do we upskill our community to get better jobs. Inactive people haven't been doing exercise for a few weeks, so how do we support that? So no, my staff are good. I've got some good people around me. They work very hard, and they know there's light at the end of the tunnel. So
it must be brilliant for them to realise that they're valued, and you obviously do value them in the way that you dealt with them, and that's really credit to you and the management team there. But you wouldn't survive, as you say, without them. So you're both important to each other, and that's a fantastic piece of recognition between two groups of people that work together. Lastly, are there any ways in which individuals, and I think you've touched on it a little, and maybe organisations can get involved?
I'm always looking for people to help us. You know, we're a charity, and we're unrestricted funding keeps us going. So fundraising, anyone got any ideas about fundraising they could help us with? At the moment, though, it's not right for us to try and fundraise as an organisation. There's more needing people like the NHS and stuff like that. So I've put a hold on any of our fundraising. We're not interested in that. We need to go out and help the community.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if people are out there and they've got time, they want to help,
yeah,
I'm happy for them to contact me, and I'll signpost them to the food banks and to organisations that are out there helping that they can support. But really, to look in their local community, see who they can help. You know, Lewisham Local are always looking for volunteers, people to drive stuff to elderly people, to vulnerable people, to help with the food banks. But they're welcome to come to me, and I will signpost them into that. And then hopefully once we're through the lockdown, I've built a relationship with those sort of people, then they can help supporting us. But at the moment, our community, I think, really needs our support.
For organisations that may offer you some form of sponsorship in a variety of things that you do.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a sponsorship brochure that we launched last year, really identifying all the strands that we do. You know, we work with children from 3 years old up to 100 years old people. And we're always looking for donations or title sponsors to come in and support it. Not just financially, but with manpower as well. You know, things like Barclays have come in and helped us with volunteers to do bits and pieces with our Down syndrome children and stuff like that. But anyone could support the trust in any way. We would never say no to any of that. So if organisations are interested, they can easily contact me at the trust.
I'll tell you what, it's been a very illuminating conversation. We spoke briefly before on the show about bits and pieces that goes on, but I think on this occasion it's very clear about what you do, how you do it, and what you're doing during this crisis. I certainly appreciate what you're doing, and what you're doing at the Millwall Community Trust is something for all the listeners to be proud of, because I'm proud of you, and I'm sure they will be. I'm sure we'll speak again, Sean, and at least I'll come along with my metal knee and have a game of football.
I look forward to that. I'll bake my whole community day on that now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming on the show. Cheers, Sean. Pat, what a setup the Community Trust is. What impresses you the most about what Sean has said?
All the things he's doing to help the community during these strange times, supporting the vulnerable with online teaching, delivering supplies to the elderly. I mean, he seems a really nice guy, and they're working so hard within the community. It's just a shame that their major sponsor day with Cass and Teddy was called off at the last minute. I'm sure there's valuable funds there they could have used. But I would impress to everyone that when this is all over, they need volunteers to help out, and do get in touch with him.
Jeff, you've watched the Millwall Community Trust develop. What's the background to the evolution of the organisation to what it is today?
It's had its ups and downs, in my opinion, and certainly its heyday is a few years ago. When Sean took the job on, he did take on a rather sick patient, in my opinion. So I think he's done really well in his first 2 years. Big job, and as it's gone on, and listening to that interview, his heart's in the right place. I'm not sure his birthplace is in the right place. From your introduction to the interview, Graham does not sound like a natural place for a lifelong Millwall supporter to have been born. I'll have to ask him about that. But he's not a big head. You don't hear that he's an A licensed coach easily. No, I'm very impressed with the job he's done, and I think the community scheme is going to benefit from this period of altruism during this terrible crisis. I think it's going to go from strength to strength under Sean.
Yeah, I'd hope so too. Stan, going to something different. The Millwall's Supporters Club this week have been asking supporters about what they would like to do about the money that season ticket holders will be owed for the remaining games this season. What is your personal take on what should be done?
Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, there will be people that will argue, well, if the season comes to an end and we don't, well, even if they played the remaining games behind closed doors, I can imagine some people saying, and I can understand it at the point where they turn around and say, well, we want our money back. Okay, now whether the club again would be in a position to do that, yeah, I mean, it will affect all clubs, won't it? Because, I mean, okay, we're only principally concerned with Millwall, but it will be the same argument in loads of other clubs. So I suspect that what will happen is that the management of these clubs will have some sort of strategic view on it all. I mean, it's a difficult one because, I can understand people saying, well, we want our money back. Well, yeah, that's fine, I get that, but then by the same token, the money ain't there. That's part of the problem, because this is totally uncharted territory. Because then we get to, what happens to when we get round to next season. I mean, if they decide that, I don't know, for the first half a dozen games, they're all going to be played behind closed doors. And we eventually get into the den round about, I don't know, halfway through November, for argument's sake. What happens then? It's just very difficult to predict.
I think we can only take the one hurdle at a time, Stan. I think we've got I think it's good that the MSC are asking to provide feedback to the club from the supporters.
I mean, I'd be interested to know what the MSC's view on it is. That would be...
So
I think one possibility is that you calculate what is owed to a season ticket holder, and that gets knocked off the price of the following season's season ticket. That's one way of dealing with it. Another way is to ask each season ticket holder, what would you like done with your refund? Option A, option B, option C. You know.
Yeah.
But again, you've asked me before if my experience helps me in this. We've never had to do anything like this. I mean, the last time we played a game behind closed doors, on a different venue, going back to my dad's time, we played a game at Portsmouth. Anybody go to that game?
When?
It's back in the mid-70s, wasn't it? After the ban following the Ipswich game.
Oh yes,
in the FA
yes.
Cup.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
We played at Portsmouth one game, and but in those days, not many people had season tickets. You know, the average crowd then was about 4,500, and so that didn't arise. So we're in completely new territory. All I would say is that there are clubs that are in great debt in the Championship and who are struggling with their wage bills and their income. I must say I'm more comfortable with the present ownership handling this problem than I would have been with certain other ones. No names. No names,
no pack drill. Well said, Jeff. Pat, we touched on all this a bit last week, and I had to cut you short because you were going on a bit.
Rambling, yeah.
And your T-shirt idea was one that we alerted Steve Kavanagh to. Just let us know about that one.
Yeah, it wasn't my idea. I'd read somewhere that a German club called Schalke 04. Never heard of them before. Schalke, is it? 04, yeah. They've offered all their season ticket holders a special one-off thank you T-shirt for not asking for their money back. I'm sure these would go down a storm at the Den. It would be very unique to season ticket holders, and it could incorporate the NHS logo somewhere on it to remind us of the times. It could be sponsored, so the club won't be out of costs. And it can become a collector's item, plus the publicity for the club. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, well...
That would be one of the options A, B and C, wouldn't it?
It would be. It would be good.
I hadn't thought of that one, Pat. I didn't know.
I wouldn't even give them the option. I'd say take it or leave it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Let's not be blunt, will we, Pat? No.
The point is, if you look on social media... I would say 95% of the people have said, we don't want our money back.
That's right, they have.
That's a very big club, Schalke 04. Very big club, probably underperformed over the years. It's a bloody good idea. And
it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, we'll share that one with them as well. Okay, our last guest this evening, we're going to hear from Craig Wilson, who celebrated an anniversary of planting his backside on 16,000 seats of our stadium in aid of Bromley Mencap.
Not all at once.
I'm joined by a young man who has followed in his father's footsteps in following the Lions. He has also rubbed shoulders with Martine McCutcheon and Jamie Foreman as an actor in the film The Bromley Boys, and currently stars daily on Facebook by bringing fun to videos that he posts during this time of lockdown. I'd like to welcome, and not for the first time to our shows, Craig Wilson.
Hi, Eamonn. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on. It is superb. Craig, there is no doubt about it, but those videos you have been showing on clearly show you're a thespian. My top three are in third, Shrek, second, Vikings, and in line with Jenna Whitelock, Lee Evans, the footballer. Explain to us what inspired you to do these daily videos.
Due to these unprecedented times, I thought if you can bring a bit of light to someone's day, whether that's through a smile or a laugh, I thought it'd be worth doing and posting daily on Facebook.
Well, that's fantastic, and they do bring a smile and a laugh, and I've seen quite some big numbers as views, and some funny and hilarious comments. How have they come about?
Well, I've been using the TikTok app for a while, and then I just thought in these sort of days, people might want to see them on my Facebook, so I thought I'd take a step and put them on there so more audience can see it.
It really is funny, hilarious, good. Your acting skills come clearly through. Basically, it's a mime, and the words are set to that. But how you conduct yourselves, the images you project are really magnificent. So, if you go onto Facebook and look for Craig Wilson, you'll find his videos there. Craig, the week before last was the anniversary of you planting your backside on 16,000 seats at our glorious stadium. Well, what was that about?
Well, I was working with a company called Bromley Mencap who help disabled people find work, and I saw Alan Shearer and Robbie Savage do a similar challenge at Wembley Stadium a few years prior for Sport Relief, and they did 45,000 seats each over 5 days. And I thought I would like to do that down at the Den. But looking back, I'm still trying to find my knees in the cold blow lane upper.
But did you take as long in as many days to do it as they did, or did you manage to do it in a lot quicker time?
No, my challenge was to do it under 24 hours, and I did it on 23 hours.
Good, so you must have been done in by the end of that. But hey, you've done a great job. And what did you raise for Mencap?
Just over £1,500.
Absolutely great. Not enough to meet the need of a replacement knee, but certainly it will give a smile to Mencap, no doubt about that. What are your hopes for this season? Whether to conclude or not to conclude is the question.
Well, from a selfish point of view, and I thought for many Millwall fans, we would like to see the season finished because we're in such a good position to push for those playoffs. But at the moment, I think everyone's health and well-being is most important, so I think it's health first, football second in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, opinions are mixed. People want it to happen, people don't want it to happen. There's fear, but a desire, because I think we're in a good position to push the season forward. It's fair to say that Craig is actually the son of one of our most, I suppose, consistent supporters at the Den in terms of the advertising that he does and obviously funds the club itself. And that is Dean Wilson, Family Funeral Directors. You'll have seen Dean's advertising on the boards around the ground in the past, and currently sponsors the corners down there. So, yeah, look out for Dean Wilson, Family Funeral Directors. There must be challenging times for your dad and his staff at the moment.
Yes, it's extremely busy at the minute and caring for many families, and that includes a lot of Millwall families during these tough times. But it's an honour to look after them all. It's
sad for many groups of people with the numbers of people that have passed. And I remember your father saying something, must have been in the region of a 200% increase in burials and cremations. So challenging times for them. We wish them all the best in the job that they do at this time. Well, thanks for coming on. Send my best to Dad and your stepmum, and you all stay safe.
I'll do. Look after yourself, Eamonn.
Yeah, will do. Tell her, my friend. See you.
Bye.
No. So we hear that, and then I say, as you heard, Craig is the son of Dean Wilson, who is famous for his advertising of his Family Funeral Directors at the Den over many years. He currently sponsors the corners. He has also cared for many Millwall families over the years. We hope he and his team stay safe in meeting their duties during the pandemic. And we mustn't forget, he's also our podcast sponsor. Thanks, Dean, for all that you do. Well, that's all from us this week, and we hope you join us again from 8 p.m. next Friday. In the meantime, to the people in the food industry, transport workers, delivery drivers, equipment maintenance engineers, people that have to look after flats and apartments, emergency responders and all other key workers, we are immensely grateful for the incredible work each and every one of you do in these very challenging times. We recognise your bravery and commitment and thank you for taking care of us all when we need it most. You are our heroes. To all, stay safe and good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
Right, it's good night from me, and keep it safe on the streets out there.